Engelbert Humperdinck is an English pop singer that has become a cherished icon in the United Kingdom since his rise to stardom in the 1960s and 1970s. He rose to success on the strength of singles such as 1967's The Last Waltz and 1966's Release Me. Engelbert got married in 1964 to a woman named Patricia Healy. Despite Engelbert often cheating on her in the early days of their marriage, the two remained married until her recent death. Before her death, she'd been suffering from Alzheimer's disease for around a decade. She died soon after being diagnosed with COVID-19 in early 2021. Engelbert was desperate during her last days, inciting fans to pray for his wife's failing health. Join Factsverse as we explore these final moments. Engelbert Humperdinck was born Arnold George Dorsey on May 2nd of 1936. He was born in Madras, British India, which is presently known as Chennai, India. His father was of Welsh descent and a member of the British Army. His mother was of German descent. When Engelbert was 10 years old, the family moved to Leicester, England. It was here that Engelbert began showing his first signs of interest in music. His instrument of choice in his early years wasn't his voice, but the saxophone. As a teenager in the 1950s, Engelbert could be seen playing the saxophone at various nightclubs around England. Despite the fact that he eventually became known more prominently as a singer, he didn't develop an interest in singing until after he had already become proficient at the saxophone. Most say that he began singing in his late teens. During the mid-1950s, Engelbert's pursuit of fame in the music industry was interrupted by a conscription into the Army. Engelbert was summoned into the British Army Royal Corps of Signals. Despite this minor setback, Engelbert was discharged by 1958. That year he was given an opportunity to record with Decca Records. He chose to perform the single I'll Never Fall in Love Again, feeling it was going to be a surefire hit with radio listeners at the time. However, the single underperformed. Although initial success eluded him, Humperdinck went on to see massive success later on. In the meantime, he continued performing at clubs. There was a minor interruption caused by a tuberculosis diagnosis in 1961. However, Engelbert kept at it. He knew that he was one day going to be famous, whether for singing or playing the saxophone. Engelbert was known to be a bit of a womanizer, and he got married to a woman named Patricia Healy in 1964. The two went on to have 4 children – Bradley, Scott, Jason, and Louise. Engelbert was often unfaithful to his wife during the peak of his career. 2 women successfully sued the singer in separate paternal lawsuits during the 1970s and the 1980s. However, him and his wife maintained a strong marriage regardless, working through the struggles as they came. The marriage lasted until Healy's death in 2021. Soon after becoming married, Engelbert found the success that he had always dreamed of. The singles Release Me and The Last Waltz became massive hits in the United Kingdom. Released in 1966 and 1967 respectively, the 2 songs propelled the singer into fame during the latter half of the decade. Although fame across shores eluded him at first, he soon attained stardom status in America during the 1970s. Engelbert retained consistent success as a performer for the remainder of the century, despite no longer being a mainstream draw in the 1980s. He was still a prominent performer into the 2000s. However, his wife's diagnosis with Alzheimer's disease around 2010 changed where the singer focused a lot of his energy. Although he could still be caught performing, Engelbert began devoting a lot more time to helping his wife overcome her diagnosis in the 2010s. On top of love, attention, and traditional medicine, he utilized numerous alternative methods of therapy to try and help his late wife overcome Alzheimer's. Always the mystic, Engelbert was no stranger to alternative medicine. One time, Engelbert was visiting an alternative medicine therapist who diagnosed the singer with mystical powers. According to the therapist, Engelbert had a healing aura that could benefit those around him through prayers and the laying of hands. The therapist didn't specify whether or not Engelbert's voice could do the trick, which might increase the value of some of his old records. However, the therapist did specify that Engelbert couldn't use his newfound powers to heal his wife. This wasn't anything specific to Engelbert, but a general rule when it came to mystic healers. According to Engelbert, he just laughed at the therapist when he heard this. However, that did not stop him from trying these supposed powers out. According to him, there have been numerous occasions where he attempted to heal others with his healing aura and actually saw results. According to the singer, he didn't care if people thought he was crazy. If he could help somebody in any way, he was going to try and do it. However, the alternative therapist's warning about these healing powers not being effective on spouses proved true. Still, his own mystical healing powers were just one of many tricks that Engelbert had up his sleeve when attempting to help his late wife overcome her diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. If you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to hit the like button to show your support, as well as subscribe to the channel if you'd like to be among the first to know when more Facts Verse content is on the way. Whether or not Engelbert Humperdinck had magical powers is debatable, but he does seem to have eternal youth. Despite his late wife experiencing failing health before her tragic passing, Engelbert remained seemingly virile as ever. Despite apparently having been dyeing his hair since the 1950s, the 84-year-old singer was still an active musical performer at the time of his wife's passing. Given that the singer always has a lot of eyes staring at him when he's on stage, he's always liked to keep in shape. In the 80s, his fitness routine has included drinking shakes and working out in his gym, as well as spending half an hour in his sauna. He has also always liked to keep a tan and has shared his unique methods for doing so. Instead of traditional suntanning lotion, Engelbert has always opted for a pure mixture of olive oil and vinegar. According to him, the mixture makes your skin smooth and darkens you in a real hurry. In the last years of her life, Patricia Healy seemed to retain fairly impressive control over herself, although that did not stop the Alzheimer's disease from showing many signs. She was cared for night and day at the couple's home in Bel Air, California. Humperdinck used his fortunes to procure a constantly rotating cast of alternative healers to come and work their magic on his wife. Even if the therapies didn't always work, Engelbert felt that he should be doing everything he possibly could just in case something proved effective. According to Engelbert, various methods had some success, leading to his wife staying in fairly consistent condition when other Alzheimer's cases might have seen the patient getting much worse. On top of trying out every medical option that he could find, whether traditional or alternative, Engelbert also believed in the healing power of love. He gave his all to keep the status quo maintained in their home, talking to his wife as if nothing was wrong, regardless of whether or not she chose to respond. Some days she could be worse, but other days she was better. Regardless, Engelbert continued trying to push through. Things remained consistent for Engelbert and Patricia up until early 2021, when the couple was diagnosed with COVID-19. While Engelbert recovered from the virus just fine, his wife's Alzheimer's symptoms prevented her from getting some of the same traditional treatments. As a result of these complications, Patricia ended up passing away on February 4, 2021. Given all that him and his wife have overcome in the past decade, Engelbert was devastated. Upon his wife's diagnosis, the singer had taken to social media in a plea to try and get fans to pray for his wife to overcome her failing health. The virus hit Patricia incredibly hard, preventing her from eating or drinking. Upon hearing about the diagnosis, Engelbert fans around the world banded together to try and spread his message. However, it appeared to be too late. After a decades-long battle with Alzheimer's disease, Patricia was pronounced dead from COVID-19. Engelbert and his wife had been married for over 50 years, and the news of his wife's passing was incredibly hard for him to take. After doing so much to help see her through the battle with Alzheimer's disease, the sudden blow from an unrelated virus was a huge shock to Engelbert and the rest of the family. Given that the death occurred so quickly, it's likely that the family has not had time to process. However, the battle with Alzheimer's disease over the past decade had certainly prepared them for the notion that Patricia wasn't always going to be there the way they remembered her. If COVID-19 hadn't taken her away, it's certain that Engelbert could be counted on to have taken care of his wife for many more years to come. Engelbert always maintained hope that he was one day going to be able to beat his wife's diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Although everyone around him considered him a fool, he was adamant that he was going to be able to do the impossible. He tried his hardest, which is all he could do. Engelbert Humperdinck had many hits in both the United Kingdom and across the world. Comment down below to share your favorite pop hit from the singer's long career, or if you'd simply like to put some positivity out there for the beloved star. As always, like this video to show your support, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be among the first to know when more Facts Verse videos are on their way.